We have some guest speakers here today we're very excited about. So let me just jump in with our agenda. I'll do a brief piece on the Zoom process for anyone who's not familiar. A tiny background on Crestone Baca Resiliency. Introduce our Laura Conchelos, who's our solar installer. We have a short video of a solar site that Laura created. And we'll talk about the types and benefits of solar PV, financial considerations, how to register. And then our guest will be Jeff King, Senior Finance Programs Manager for the Colorado Energy Office. And also we have two representatives, loan representatives from our own Aventa Credit Union. And after we go through the presentation, we'll open it up for questions and answers. And Cliff, our IT professional, is going to be handling the questions, and he has asked that you not use the raise hand feature on Zoom and just use the chat box. So as soon as you get a question, if it's right now or whenever we're going through, just put your question in the chat box, and if you can, write it the way that you want Cliff to repeat it, because he'll be reading it out, and then whoever is appropriate will try to answer the question. As you might have noticed, everyone's muted to begin, and we'll ask that you stay muted. And when the speakers are presenting, please unmute yourself and then remute yourself. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say about that. No, I think I've got it. And the video option, you can have it turned on or off, depending on what your preference is. It's nice to see everyone's face, but it's up to you. So, so we've gone through the process. Let's go to the next slide. So basic background. 3.5 years ago, about 100 of our neighbors came together over 3 days to create a vision of resiliency for our community. And out of that vision came 8 action groups, and the energy action group, which is highlighted on the top of the slide, is the one who's really created this CBR Solarize program and offering it to all of you. The team is myself, I'm the chair of Crestone Baca Resiliency, Janet Woodman, who you'll hear from in a minute, Karen Caddis, who's here online, Cliff Rodriguez, our IT professional, Chris Morissette, who's traveling on business right now, and Mary Marshall, who's also traveling on business. So Laura, I know you're online. Maybe you'd like to speak up and introduce yourself and give us a bit about your background, and then we'll play the video.
Hey there, sorry I'm running a little late, so I just ran in the door, that's why I went off for a moment. My name is Laura Conchelos, and I live in Monte Vista, Colorado. I've been working in solar since 2013, and started off doing solar in Santa Fe, New Mexico for a group called Positive Energy down there. I did my training through Solar Energy International, which is a school based out of Paonia, Colorado, and I now teach for them as well. So we teach both online. This year it's all online, but online and in-person classes in Paonia, and also around the world and around the country. Yeah, and I got my start. I worked in construction for a while before that, so kind of gave me a nice background for getting into solar and electrical, and just was sort of, I don't think when I was little I really thought about solar, but working in construction, I definitely was intrigued by just working with electricity, and then being interested in doing anything we can to mitigate climate change, or lessen climate change and use more green energy. I got interested in that, and so I think I took my classes with SEI Paonia in 2011 and 2012, and I've been working in solar ever since, and then mostly with grid tie solar. But since moving to the San Luis Valley, I've definitely done a lot more off-grid up here, because as you guys probably know, there's a lot more off-grid situations where people are not close to the utility, and it costs a lot to put in power lines and power poles. So yeah, that's me.
Great. And I just want to add, Laura, that you led a wonderful Solar 101 course here maybe 2 years ago at this point
Yeah, that was fun.
for our community. So good. All right. Well, I'm going to play a short video of an installation that Laura and her firm did of solar. And I'm going to ask Laura to talk us through it. And I hope this will all work.
I apologize. I didn't get a chance to review it, so it'll be.
Well, I think you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why is my thing not working? Let me try this. Okay, a little bit of technical glitch here. That's interesting. Okay. My computer's not letting me move to the next slide. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing and then start again. So I apologize. I hadn't had this happen before. Okay. Can you all see this? I'm the only one that sees it. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Come on. Oh, escape. Okay. Now let me try sharing screen again and see if it'll work better this time. Okay. Oops. Do you hear the music and everybody see it? Okay, good. So Laura, just start in anytime you want.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a system we put in for David and Carol Lee last year. It's I forget the size. I think it's 6-point-something kilowatts, and the solar array. David was really interested in having the array adjustable, seasonally adjustable. So often with grid tie systems, we don't do that. With off-grid, we almost always do that, and that's so that you can gain as much, produce as much energy in the winter months as in the summer months. And so we made this adjustable. It's on 2 poles, so it's a fairly large adjustable array. And then from there, we used it used to be a Pica system. It's now a system owned by Generac, owns the company that does the inverter and the battery for the system. They were interested in a battery backup system. So we put this array in, and then from there, they were having a studio built for David's work behind the array anyway. So we put the equipment in the studio and kind of built a room specific to that. These 2 components are measuring. So this meter is an addition to the meter that they had on their house initially, and that meter measures production for the solar system. On the left right here is the battery box, and then the inverter on the right. And so what the system allows is, mostly it's a grid tie system, but when the utility grid does go down, so when SLV REC has power outages, the battery does provide backup power for a certain number of loads at their house. So what we did, and some of this I can talk about after too, but the specifics, but what we did is we went through all the loads that they wanted to run when the power was out, and it allows them to run those loads when the power is down. So they couldn't run their whole house off. It would be possible, but I think we have a limit. Maybe I just don't talk about it after.
There we go.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that, Laura?
Well, I was just going to say, I guess quickly, just how we chose. So I had David and Carol Lee basically chose the loads, the electrical loads that they wanted to run when the utility goes down. And so we went through all the electrical loads in their house that they thought were the most important, and then we decided what they could fit. There's a limit on the number of loads they could run at the same time based on the inverter. And so we just chose carefully, you know, what loads they had, how often, how long they wanted to run them for. You know, the fact is the power doesn't go out too much, but you guys probably, I don't know if you had the power outage there the other day, but power was out, I know, in Creed and South Fork and Del Norte for overnight the other night. So it does go out. And then the other thing the system allows for, other than battery backup, is, and I think was part of the motivating factor for the leads, was that when you guys had well, I'm on Excel, so that's why I talk about you guys, but when SLBREC put on in that demand charge last year, you know, that was a motivating factor for them. And so what the batteries can allow them to do, and we set it up to do, is it allows them to use part of that battery to offset the load, so that whereas, you know, if they were running a whole lot of things, washer, dryer, heater, water heater, all at the same time, that's when the demand charge really kicks in for the number of kilowatts you're using. And so some of that power actually gets drawn from the battery as well as the utility, so that it's like there's still a little spike, but it's not, they're not using as many kilowatts from the utility as they would be if there was no battery in the system. So it's kind of like a dual purpose. We call these hybrid systems, and they can do a number of different things, battery backup, as well as what we call self-consumption, which is that use of the battery while you're connected to the grid.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Let's move on. So what is this program, CBR Solarize? Well, it's a limited time offer providing you with an hopefully easy, simple process to install solar at your home or small business. It's a program to make it easy for our whole community to go solar together and fulfill our 2017 vision from the Search Conference, which was to become a 100% solar community. Take advantage of our best feature here. Opportunity to work with Laura, who's a certified solar contractor who's been very thoroughly vetted for this program. Opportunity to save money through group discounts. So the more people who subscribe to this program, the more everyone will save who's part of it. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. Financing options available, which we'll go into today in a lot of detail. And as I said earlier, hopefully a simplified process. So why should you get solar? Probably everyone on this Zoom presentation already knows why. It's renewable, abundant energy. I love this statistic though. Every hour the sun radiates more energy into the earth than the entire human population uses in one whole year.
Wow.
I mean, I know it's almost unbelievable. Energy independence, locally based option versus depending on SLBREC and tri-state, as we know have issues. It's a wise investment. The typical payback period is 7 to 8 years. And on average, you'll save over $1,000 each year on your electric bill. And that savings will only increase over time as electric rates go up through the utility. It's a way to help prevent greenhouse gases. This is another interesting statistic to me, that an average 5 kilowatt system prevents 6.2 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, the same as driving over 15,000 miles. And now is the time. This is a limited time opportunity. You need to register on our website by September 30th in order to receive the CBR Solarize cost discount, and we'll go into more detail on that as well. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Janet Woodman to explain.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Here we have 3 different setups for a solar system. On the left is the grid-tied system. So you have your solar panel up on the roof. You're producing energy, producing electricity that goes into the grid, and it will help defray the cost of your electricity, your electric bill. And after 7 to 8 years, you will have paid off the cost of your installation by doing this. In the middle, we have an off-grid building here, and you can see the little batteries on the right. So it's producing its own energy and has nothing to do with the grid. So if the grid goes down, this house happily keeps on taking care of all its electrical needs. On the right, we have a combination like the one that Laura recently showed us. And this is, you're attached to the grid, but should the grid go down, you have your own batteries. And this could be useful if you have, say, medical needs that require electricity, lighting, you can charge your phone, refrigeration, internet, keep those things going. Even if you don't have the full amount of power, you'll still be able to deal with your emergency needs. And okay, we have Colorado solar power cost example. This is something different than what I saw on the previous slide presentation.
Same slide.
And you can see yourself there what the costs are. Here we go. Okay. The prices on solar equipment are going down all the time, while prices for grid electricity are going up, thus reducing the payback time for solar investment. With a grid-tied system, it now stands at 7 to 8 years, as shown by these charts, to pay back your system. And after that, you are just making electricity and saving money. Since the panels last on average 35 years, it's a good long-term investment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Did you have more?
Yeah, and the next slide.
What do you want to do?
I changed this. Why don't you take them here, Kate?
So this slide explains the federal tax credit. And another reason why it's kind of urgent, if you're thinking about solar, this is a great time to do it. If your installation is complete in 2020, you can get a federal income tax credit of 26%. If it doesn't get finished until 2021, which some even in this program may not be done till then, it's still a 22% federal tax credit. So it's not that much less. But after 2021, as the system stands right now, you go to zero for residential. So there'll be no more federal tax credit. Of course, we don't know if a different administration is elected and if that may change. But as everything stands now, really you want to get it in by 2021 at the latest. You'll see 10% here, but that's for commercial and businesses. And the 10% federal tax credit will continue indefinitely. Okay, so how do you register for this program? Go to our website, cbrsolarize.net, click on register, complete the registration form, and then our installer, Laura, who you just met online, should contact you with a few days to arrange a call or meeting, and you will get a free on-site assessment, and then Laura will provide a proposal, and you decide then if you want to sign the contract and proceed. So to start with, there's no obligation. You're really just going to get free information about your situation. And again, in red here to mention that it's time limited. So the program with its associated discounts is only available if you sign up by September 30th, the end of this month. Okay, so now I'm going to turn to Jeffrey King, who's going to talk to you about the RENU program of the Colorado Energy Office. So Jeff, do you want to unmute yourself? And everybody else, make sure you're muted.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Kate. Can you hear me and see me all right?
Perfect.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick presentation on the RENU loan, which is an offering by the Colorado Energy Office, which is where I'm employed as a senior finance programs manager. So keep my presentation to about 10 minutes or so, and I'll be around to take questions afterwards if anyone has any. I think with that, we can jump into it.
Okay.
Just a quick bit about our office. I am with the Colorado Energy Office, and there's fortunately a lot of alignment with what we're trying to do, with what you folks are doing with your program down there in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So this is one of the offerings that we have to support what it is that our office is designed to do. And so today, yeah, we'll be talking about our financing option, which is our main residential financing option for the deployment of clean energy in the state. And it comes under the RENU umbrella. And I'll just be walking through those sections there, sections 1, 2, and 3, and we'll jump into that. Pardon any background noise there. So RENU, so it's the Residential Energy Upgrade Loan is where we get that acronym. And in short, it's an offering through our office designed to support fixed low interest rate long-term financing for homeowners looking to make upgrades on their homes as far as energy efficiency and renewable energy go. And I'll just highlight kind of out of the gates here that this is a public-private partnership, which I'll speak a little bit more about, but essentially it is one financial offering out there in a marketplace of many. I know there'll be some folks from Aventa Credit Union who I'm personally not too familiar with, unfortunately, but there's various financing options out there. So you'll feel free to obviously encourage anybody to look at multiple options when they can, and then kind of make the best decision that's going to work for you all. But today I'll be speaking specifically about RENU. And as far as kind of getting into further detail on what it can be used to finance, it is just for existing homes of 1 to 4 units. And I think that generally applies based on my understanding with the folks here. And the financing itself does start at a 2.75% interest rate. So if you're looking at getting a solar system as part of this program, and financing is an option, of course, this is kind of an avenue for you to start exploring that. And I can provide more information either directly or indirectly through Kate, whatever the preferred method of communication is here. But if folks would like to see a more detailed breakout on the financing terms and rates, I'd be happy to do that.
The RENU loan program is a public-private partnership in which the Colorado Energy Office sponsors and manages the program,
I'm sorry,
while
that might be
overseeing partnerships with participating lenders and contractors.
Is there a way to turn
The
off?
lenders in the RENU program offer
maybe just
affordable
mute
financing
yourself again. I'm
for
sorry.
statewide to make energy improvements to their homes. As a result of their partnership with RENU, participating lenders are able to offer lower interest rates
What would you
and
like me
finance
to do?
projects for a broader
Okay, or
spectrum
maybe if you mute
borrowers.
yourself, I can keep going through it.
Contractors who are
Okay.
authorized by the RENU program install the eligible energy upgrades.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I must have sent you a version that still had like the a different audio overlaid onto that. So my apologies. But yeah, essentially that is it is a public-private partnership. So what it is that we're doing at the Energy Office is partnering with the private sector lender, in this case, Elevations Credit Union, who provides the financing. And I'll speak a little bit more to them, as well as a network of authorized contractors. So we authorize contractors to join the program, of which I will highlight if this hasn't been broadcasted already. Laura's company, Sandhill Solar, is an authorized contractor in RENU, and she has done projects through RENU as far as offering her customers the financing through the program. So our office kind of sponsors it, and it all comes together under the RENU loan program umbrella. So that's essentially what it is as far as who the players are and how that all comes together under the RENU umbrella. Next slide, please. Kate, are you able to advance those slides anymore?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Are you muted?
There. Now, can you see that?
Yep. And you know, that's I sent you one that, I'm sorry, I didn't realize
Is it
might have
just-
had an audio track to it.
Is it just that one? Shall I go back to this regular slideshow?
You know, I can't be certain, unfortunately.
Well, let's just leave it this way then,
Yeah,
because
if folks can see it, that's totally works for me. So
I'll make it a little bit. Is that better? I can make it a little bigger.
Yep.
Okay.
I can see
great.
it fine as long as others can.
Okay.
And just a reminder, I know the focus is really on solar, but for anybody who's considering energy efficiency measures, you could bundle those all under one single project and one single financing. Just specifically to keep this at 10 minutes, I think I've got about 5 or 6 left. just specifically, I will answer, I know some folks have maybe asked about battery storage. We unfortunately don't have that as an eligible measure under RENU yet. We're working pretty aggressively to do that, but there's considerations both with our lender and some of the federal money restrictions on there. So we don't have that in place just yet. So my apologies for an inconvenience there if you are considering that, in which case you may want to finance that separately or come out of pocket or whatever it is that may be. So just wanted to highlight that little element specifically.
Okay. Let's see, I got to do this manually. There we go.
Great, thanks again. Just some quick highlights on the financing itself. So as a rule of thumb, I'm sure if you have finance cars or anything, the fact that you can come no money down or nothing out of pocket is usually a big selling point for financing, which helps make that more agreeable on a month-to-month cash flow basis. The loan does go up to $50,000. So as you know, a solar system can get pretty sizable depending on how big of a system you're looking at. The financing itself will go from 3 to 15 years in those increments there. So that does help make that monthly cash flow a bit better. Obviously, the longer you take that financing out. We do allow for 580 credit score and above to make it, hopefully more inclusive as far as the borrowers go. There is no prepayment penalty. And then principal, this kind of relates to the investment tax credit portion. So I'm not sure if you've kind of thought about that too much, but this financing does not have a separate component for the investment tax credit. Some financing does. And I don't know if folks are aware of that or if this is a confusing topic or not. We can dig into this at a later point if it is. But what this product does allow for is that any principal payment, so when and if you got your tax credit back, you have the option to apply $1,000 in principal to qualify for a no-cost reamortization. So it's essentially kind of a way to work within that tax credit without also not being stuck under the assumption that you will get that full tax credit and have to pay that off. Otherwise, you face kind of some strict interest rate penalties, which is what you'll often see with that investment tax credit, same as cash financing piece. But if that's confusing, then feel free to disregard for now. We can talk about it at a separate time. And the loan origination fees are all generally under $50. As I did say, this is a partnership with Elevations Credit Union, and I will just separately plug this. As I said, I've never interacted with any of the folks at Aventa and looking forward to hearing their discussion, but this is designed to be an open financing model. So the intent is not to just have one local Colorado lender, but several in the program. So it is a new program and we're expanding it out. So just as a separate plug there, we do just have one lender in the program, but are looking to actively expand that to other credit unions in the state. Just a quick piece here, and I'll kind of accelerate here towards the end. Just as far as eligibility, so it is limited only to property owners. So just something to be aware of. I did mention the credit score minimum previously, and then with most other financing products, there is a debt to income ratio requirement. So just something to keep in mind as far as that underwriting by the lender goes. I mentioned earlier the property itself has to be a single family home of 1 to 4 units. We do allow for townhomes, duplexes, condos, etc., so long as you own that system or you own the roof or the ground in which you're going to put the solar. And then if this is your secondary home or a rental or a income property, then that is eligible as well, so long as you are the owner. And finally, you do have to work with an authorized contractor, as I mentioned, Laura's company is. Just a quick overview on the steps. I won't go into detail here, but essentially there is a credit approval. There's a project approval. So our office is performing a technical oversight of every project that comes through. So kind of think of it as a little bit of a consumer protection piece as far as our effort to keep contractors in line, so to speak. There's huge, 130 some odd contractors in RENU, and hopefully this oversight of that quote process just kind of raises the integrity of everybody within the program. And then the completion, and then the installation, and the funding, the closing, and then of the loan and the funding to your contractor. And then lastly, that's just my information. Maybe I can send that out separately through Kate if anybody wants to reach out and have questions on RENU. But I appreciate you inviting me, and happy to take questions towards the end if there are any.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was great. So let's move on to Aventa. We have Elizabeth and Joel. Joel Weston, who's most of you may know, is our local representative, and Elizabeth Molina. So Joel and Elizabeth, I turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Good afternoon. Elizabeth, do you want to introduce yourself and get started?
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Elizabeth. I am the consumer lending manager of Aventa Credit Union. So on our end, it's just basically going to be based on, it's also going to be credit based, but we definitely do have multiple ways of financing and looking into financing, depending on what we're looking at. I think maybe Joel will probably be able to give you a little bit more information from, the amount I'm kind of looking. So maybe Joel will probably be your best one for being the mortgage loan officer.
Absolutely. And to further illustrate what Elizabeth was saying, well, first off, my name is Joel Weston. I do work here in Crestone in the Swatch branch. I'm in the mortgage department and was previously a consumer loan officer. So speaking to some of what was previously mentioned as far as finding additional financing, whether it be Elizabeth's department or the mortgage department, that's where that additional financing would come in. Say you need $20,000 to complete your installation, order new materials or what have you, that secondary financing would come in. In addition, we do offer fixed rate mortgages, 15, 20, 30-year, first mortgages, second mortgages, home equity lines of credit, and of course, cash out refinances. So, and we hold loans in our own portfolio as well as with a servicing partner. So throughout all of those mortgaging services, partnering with others as well, we can generally meet the needs that are required in the community. And of course, if you all have any questions, I think we're reserving questions for the end of the presentation. Is that right?
Yes, yes, and we're almost there. Elizabeth, do you have anything else to add before we move on?
No, not at the moment. Same thing to you. I'll be definitely open to any questions towards the end of the meeting.
Okay, well, guess what? We're at the end. question and answer time. So I'm going to unshare here so we can, it'll let me. Here we go. And so we can see each other. And Cliff, I'm going to call on you to speak out the questions.
Okay, Kate, our first question here is, without the battery in a grid-tied system, will your power depend on the grid?
Yes, I'll answer that. Yeah. Without a battery in the system, your power, if the utility grid goes down and you just have a grid connected inverter, grid tied inverter, then you won't have power when the utility is down. There's one small exception if you have a ground mount in our case, and you can actually power a small